Welcome back to Irish Strength, and we are on the build-up to official Strongman, Ireland's Strongest Man, which is happening this Saturday, the 4th of November. I'm privileged to be joined by Ger Buckley. Thanks very much for joining us, Ger.
You're welcome, Mark.
So I think one of the more active members of the roster on social media, you are sort of the man behind all the memes that people are seeing. Is this basically what you do for a living, just memes?
Yeah, well, I mean, do I get paid for it? No. But no, in fairness, Mark, I am really looking forward to the competition this weekend, Pat Hairdryer's testimonial, where we get to commemorate the end of 9 years of Strongman. It's quite emotional, actually. That's why I'm wearing the sunglasses. I have the coveted Finn McCool candle here. So obviously Pat has won 5 Irish Strongest Man titles. I think it's, if you could join me in 5 seconds of silence, Mark, and we'll just commemorate.
I think that's fair.
Okay, thank you, Mark. You can continue.
No problem. It's nice to see you giving that honour to one of our previous best athletes. You're getting me going on this now as well. I'm starting to insult people. The fact that Pa has now come out and looks like he's going to compete this Saturday, how do you feel about that?
Honestly, I don't think it's a good look. Like he has asked the question at the Giants Live Glasgow if he was doing it or not. And his attitude to the competition is like a last resort. Whereas if you compare that to Gal Bilton, he's seen it as an honour winning Wales Strongest Man. So I think it's an insult to everyone else in the lineup. I mean, say what you want about what I do. Like, I just take the piss. But I think he genuinely is dragging the sport down. Well, actually, no, let me change that. I think he's caused the slowness of growth in Strongman. Because 5 years he was a champion and he didn't do much for others, for being an ambassador of the sport. Whereas you compare that to Killian and Jack, like the two of them, I was obviously in the natural strongman scene this year. The two of them aren't a part of that, but the amount of volunteer work that they put in as athletes themselves, like very selfless, always there to help. And obviously Killian's the Ireland's Strongest Man now. So, but that's a good ambassador for the sport. It's a good role model, in my opinion.
And what do you genuinely think are Pa's chances? Like, obviously, didn't go terribly well, but didn't go complete disaster a couple of weeks back. What do you think it's going to be like at this competition with the other athletes that are at it?
No, it wasn't a disaster. No, 8th place was pretty good. Like, everyone was talking highly of Tyler Cotton from America, and he equaled points with him. So it wasn't a disaster. But for himself, obviously, he's a fixture on that lineup of Giants Live. He would have been wanting top 6. His chances, I mean, look, the events, like, I think like Dean Doyle and Dylan Doyle were saying, like, their weakness is farmer walk. I think Pa's grip is pretty bad too. Like, I actually, 4 years ago, we had a Giants Live qualifier, the last one that was in Ireland, which I did, and I beat Pat on the grip event. And I was only like 110 kilo back then. Didn't really put too much prep into that competition at all. So he's lucky that event isn't there, because he could have came last in this roster of lineup. No, the events are good. From obviously, you would have liked Axel or Dumbbell. I know his log obviously isn't great. He has the mark on his head to prove that. But no, deadlift, obviously, class at deadlift. Yoke, he's very quick with a yoke. I know he hasn't done it in a few comps, as far as I know. But 4 years ago, he was absolutely lightning with 400. And this is the same kit. It's the same yoke. So this is going to be 20 kilo more with a turn. There wasn't a turn 4 years ago, but he'll be the one to beat on yoke. Sandbags at 38 or 39. I can't see him winning the sandbag medley. Just for 2 sandbags, a keg, and a tire, and they're all heavy, and you need to be very quick. Like, I'll be hoping for 30 seconds, hopefully less if I can. So he won't beat me on that. And I know Rory's quick and Matthew McKeegan. Stones, yeah, they're a good event for him. So I can see him winning 2 events, and then the other 3 are up in the air.
And like, to be fair, like he's such a great athlete. He has been a great athlete for Ireland. And I suppose he has done a job on representing Ireland at these big competitions. So we have to keep that in mind as well. The rest of the athletes that you're going up against on Saturday, is there ones that you're looking at that you think, right, they're the big challenge? Or are you just going into this with a sort of blank canvas going, I'm just focusing on myself?
Oh, I have like literally nothing to lose. This is my side quest. Like my main goal this year was the natural world's strongest man title. Now, obviously, I came third in that. But this wasn't even on my radar. I didn't plan on doing this comp this year. I didn't even know it was going to go ahead. You know, it's very last minute. So for me, I've absolutely nothing to lose. Like if I come dead last mark and mess up every single event, I'm in the exact same position as I came into it. Like there's guys in that lineup that've been prepping for this comp the whole year, like Jack. I've only put 4 weeks. Natural Worlds was what 4 weeks ago. Yeah. Not using that as an excuse by any means. They're similar events, but as in my comp season has ended in my eyes. This is just for fun. Well, maybe Kyle, but Kyle's a nice guy. Well, like everyone else, I'm not on their radar, but that suits me fine. Like I wasn't on anyone's radar at the Natural UKs, and I know it's a natural comp. However, you know, Ben Glasscock and Joe Brown, they've been beating untested lifters over in the UK. I've beaten McKeegan. I've never lost to Killian. I've never lost to Dylan. A few other lads I've never faced, but like I went over to the gym last weekend to train the kit. No one else done that. I put the invite out there. Now again, last minute. But I went up 2.5 hours to that gym just to try out the kit. I touched the log, I touched the yoke, so I know exactly where that yoke is going to be on my back. I know what hole I'm in. I know what the log feels. I think the log is going to catch a lot of people out. It's quite heavy, 100 kilo empty. The clean caught me. I almost like fell backwards with the clean. And that's usually my best part of the lift. And I had a go at the axle deadlift, so I know how that feels. I know exactly what straps to use on it because every axle deadlift is different on thickness. So I put the preparation, only 4 weeks, but Mark, I feel really, really good. And I actually can't wait. The more guys I beat, that's just more mean material. So they have everything to lose. I have everything to gain.
And it must be quite, like you've sort of touched on it there, it must be quite refreshing to go into a comp with absolutely no pressure. All the other guys sort of have a little bit of pressure on them and some have a lot of pressure, whereas you have absolutely none at all.
Yeah, Natural Worlds, I had pressure. I remember Dean on Instagram had me favourite to win, Dean McVie. I was just there thinking, oh, I got to win now. And obviously I fluffed the second event. There was no coming back from that. Joe Brown was class. But yes, that was pressure because I actually kept looking at what Joe was doing the whole weekend. As you were there, you obviously saw that. But this now, I'm just going to have a bit of crack. Like I'm really excited to do this comp. I actually can't wait. I'm more excited for this comp than I was any other comp this year. Like you said, I've nothing to lose. I'm just going in for the total banter. That's it. Just
moving away from this comp for a moment and looking at Worlds Naturals, you were so close to, like, it came third, but it was tough to go all the way through the comp. That must give you an awful lot of confidence going forward, not just for this comp, but for next year, for the Natural Worlds again, and for other comps.
Yeah, cheers for that. Yeah, I was close, but I give respect to Joe for winning. He was consistent the whole day. I think he didn't come out with the top 3 in any event. So I knew when I messed up the yoke, even though it was event 2 out of 8, I was like, oh, I've absolutely dropped this now. He would have needed to even done a similar mistake on another event. He was just class throughout, so fair play to him. But it gave me confidence. Next year will be a lot tougher. I already know there's a few guys that are down to do it. Stuart Graham from Scotland. I was talking to Dale, actually. He's a couple of lifters over from Asia that are going to do the online qualifier. Some really strong guys from Dubai. So that'll be interesting. The more the better. Like that builds the whole scene, the natural strongman scene. And there's there's a lot of good natural strongmen out there that can contest in the pro leagues. We see that with Andy Flynn and Paul Smith. So, you know, yeah, no, I'm looking forward to next year. I hope to win it. I'm not going to do UK's because I've already won that. It'll just be Ireland's because I came second in that this year. So I want to win that in February and then go straight to Worlds because I've already got the invite for coming podium. So I'll have a nice off season going into that.
For this competition, the guys that have dropped out, obviously Jonathan Kelly has dropped out with.
Has he?
Yes,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, bicep injury apparently. So that's, you know, fair enough. It's one that can't be avoided. A couple of other people have dropped out more due to sort of personal reasons. How do you see that with an opportunity to go to Britain's Strongest Man, the Giants live show? Do you feel the right to drop out, or do you feel like it's a missed opportunity, or, you know, one of the biggest opportunities?
Well, Mark, funny enough, just on a side note, 4 years ago, the Giants Live Qualifier was a week after the Cerberus Cup, which is now called the Strom Cup. You know, Cerberus, the company with the extortionate sandbag prices. But that was 4 years ago, and I remember we all did it. Myself, Matthew McKeegan, Killian, Eamon Harford. It was a huge lineup, 15 lads. McKeegan won. I came second. I think Killian came third. And then the week after, Dave Warner said, we're going to do the Ireland's qualifier. And of that lineup, I was the only one that did it. No one else, McKeegan didn't do it. They were all like, oh, it's too heavy, no prep. I just jumped in for the crack because I was like, I just want to see where I am. And Powell Dwyer did it, obviously. And there's other guys, Matthew McCoy, Robert Clark, Andrew Robertson, Big V did it. And Davy Jones. And one or two other guys that just escaped my mind. But where I'm going with this, so those lads took a punt. There was no prep. We only found out the events literally like a week out or something, 2 weeks maybe. So I'm not going to make any of the guys now feel bad for pulling out because it is a heavy competition. If you have any personal reasons, any injuries, you know, a bicep tendonitis that's on the brink of tearing, maybe this comp isn't for you. You know, it is a heavy comp. 420 yoke really hurts someone. The 320 axle for reps and then going into the sandbags like a bicep could tear. So no, if they're not 100% in it, I'm gutted that Jonathan's not doing it and Daniel McElroy, because they'd easily take points off Pat in some events. Daniel on the log and on the sandbags, and I know Johnny has a really good deadlift. So it's a shame. But with the qualifier, like, you got to be all in. It's a huge opportunity. It's a heavy competition. And if you're not 100% in, you could really hurt yourself. And you'd be out for months, if not a year.
Yeah, that's fair, especially when it comes to injuries. And a lot of the time, what we know, the information we get, isn't the full picture. So guys could have injuries that could just feel a little twinge that they go, right, hamstring is on the edge there. So we have to give everything we know. We have to take a pinch of salt and see the full picture. For yourself, with the athletes that are left, somebody was wondering what your top 3 prediction is.
So 2 scenarios. If I have the day I want, I think I'll be on the podium. So I think with me will be McKeegan and Pat. And then scenario 2, if Pat doesn't turn up, and if I might not have my day and I come like 4th, 5th or whatever, I think it'll be McKeegan, Dean Doyle, and Rory. I think Rory might pick Killian for 3rd. And the reason why I say that is because event 1, the log, Killian will suffer. Rory probably too. I'm not too sure what his max is, but I know he's not a big guy, so he might struggle to get the 2nd log. See, I don't know what the jumps are, Mark. If it's 10 kilo, 140, 150, 160, 170, that could make a huge difference if everyone misses 160, you know, drawn points. So there'll be a lot, like, if people finish on the same number and someone gets 170, that's a huge gap in points there. And I'm thinking of the Doyle brothers because they obviously have a great log, and McKeegan too. So there could be a gap going into event 2. But I think because they put the loading medley before deadlift, I think Jack and Killian are going to suffer. I think they are carrying a bit too much body weight for and the speed of this comp, because we're the only weight class doing it. So it's going to be similar to the GSP comps where, you know, it's just 10-minute break between events probably, which suits me. I love that. I absolutely love that. That was the problem with Natural Worlds for me. There was like 2 hours between events, and my adrenaline, I just couldn't keep control of it. It just kept spiking, going down, up and down. And by the end of it, I was just exhausted from waiting. This whole comp could be done in like 2.5, which perfect for us, leaner lads. But I think Jack and Killian, by the time the yoke comes, they'll be huffing and puffing. And I think Rory might hit Killian because of the cardio.
Yeah, I imagine this will be, like you say there, quite a quick comp. My guess would be around the 3.5 hours, judging by the sort of using official strongman, the weight categories down in Galway as a little bit of a template. That went for nearly 5 hours, but a lot more athletes. So I do think it'll be about 3 to 4 hours maximum. So like you say, for the athletes that have a little bit more cardio fitness, it will benefit them an awful lot more. When you've obviously dabbled quite a lot into both sports, so you're powerlifting and strongman. Matthew McKeegan wants to know, what do you think about that strongmen are stronger than powerlifters?
Yes. Well, like, strength is relative. So if we're talking about someone that can just jump in and lift anything, and we're talking maybe functionality, like if I have a fridge outside and I need someone to lift it, I'm going to ask the strongman. If in competition standards with poise and form and, you know, like no hitching, etc., and deep squats, obviously powerlifting trumps. I suppose it's more an artistic form of lifting. And then obviously you've got the Olympic lifting too. But I just think brute strength, pure static strength, I'm going to go with strongman.
I think that everyone else that will be there on Saturday will be happy with that answer. And the last question that came in was, and I think you've already touched on this, so which athlete are you looking forward to beating the most?
Well, it would be nice to keep the undefeated streak against Killian. I've beaten him 4 times. He's never beaten me. It's funny, Mark, there's a saying about my static strength being kind of weak, which I think is greatly exaggerated. Like, Killian's meant to be the best deadlifter in the country, and he's never beaten me on a deadlift event. I won the deadlift event at Natural Worlds, and then the comp before that, I won the overhead event. I'm getting better at it. So for me, not necessarily beating someone overall, what would put a real smile on my face is if I do really well on the log and deadlift, and that whole Ger doesn't have static strength goes out the window. I think with the 320, so for me with the deadlift suit, the first rep is always the toughest for me, but then after that I get into a lovely rhythm where every is easier. So if I can, the first rep, as long as I don't fuck up the first rep, I think I could do 5 or 6 genuinely once I lock in. Like, I'm not letting go of the bar. I think it's a minute, so I think I'll do 5. The axle suits me. I don't like a deadlift bar. The whip always catches me, so the axle suits me perfectly. I like the stiffer the bar, the better for me. Same with powerlifting. The log, I think I can do 150. No chance of 160. So if it is 10 kilo jumps, if you can pick your own numbers, I'll do 155. Well, I'll try it anyway.
You're one of the athletes that puts quite a lot of your training and your videos onto social media. So I've been able to keep a little bit more of a track of how you're getting on. And just over the weekend there, your training looks to be going fairly well. Like, I think you were doing, was it 305 on the axle for 3 sets of 2? Like, they were looking very, very solid. Has your training gone completely to plan, or has there been a couple of events that haven't gone 100%?
No, I went to plan. Like I didn't. Well, there was one session on log a week ago. For some reason, I couldn't clean the log properly. It kept getting caught on my belt. You might have seen I put a t-shirt there on one or two sessions to kind of give it a little bit of grip. Got a nice tip from Sean Diver. He said put an elbow sleeve on the belt inside it. But yeah, whatever was happening, I just couldn't clear it. So anytime I went over like 130, it was just getting caught on the belt. So now what I do is I use the belt buckle, literally belt buckles on the center, and I use that as kind of like a shelf. So that was the only session that didn't go to plan. I must have spent an hour trying to clean 140. I must have tried it like 15 times. My forearms were so bruised from like missing the catch. But that was the only session that didn't go to plan. I didn't miss any deadlift reps. I had hopes, obviously, Paul Smith's my coach. So we've already won a comp together. So I'm totally, whatever he says jump, I say how high. The only thing I would have wanted was maybe to get a little closer to the 320 in training, but that would be just for mentally, I suppose, for the confidence. However, in previous preps, I've been 15 kilo away from the comp weight and I've smashed the comp weight. So there is that idea of peaking, whereas I know some other guys, I think Dean said that he likes going over the competition weight. So different strokes, different folks, I suppose you just have to trust the process, as corny as that sounds. So that was the only one that seemed a little bit away from the comp weight, but the yoke, 30 kilo on yoke is not much. The 390 actually felt really easy. What else? 140 was grand. It's 140 for a couple of reps, a couple of singles in training on the log, cleaned the 150. Done the loading medley, the sandbag, and the tire. The tire was actually very awkward. 180 kilo, I think it is. That will catch a couple of guys, I think. I know McKeegan and Dean have a bicep thing going on. Or I think Dean said it anyway.
Yeah.
After that tire, I won't lie, my bicep was feeling quite fatigued. So I wouldn't fancy having a pre-injury going into that loading medley. That's going to be very tough on the biceps. And then lastly, stones. Unfortunately, I don't have a proper stone in my gym. So I'm just hoping that all the sandbag work will transfer over. To be honest, I'm not really worried about stones. I've always done really well. I don't think I've ever finished outside the top 3 on stones. Maybe like once because I messed up my tacky. But I nearly 8 times out of 10 I win stones. So I don't see why I couldn't win it on Saturday.
Going back to the meme side of things, obviously it's a lot of good banter, and I think it's really good for the sport because people want to be entertained by the sport, and this adds to it. Is there a little extra bit where there's a psychological battle going on, or is it purely just the banter side of things? Is that the only reason you do it?
Totally banter with McKeegan, Dean, all the lads. The only one is just Pat. So with Pat, and I don't like Pat. I think Pat, when I speak to him in person or, outside of the whole online persona, because obviously in the pro leagues, you have a character. When you have that many followers, you have to put up a certain character. But himself, as himself, he's very nice, sound, easy to get on with. He's funny. I'm sure you've met him. He's a funny guy. He actually is funny. But what I don't like, so when Killian won Ireland's Strongest Man, as far as I know, Pat never congratulated him or said, well done. He doesn't even follow Killian on Instagram. When he won Ireland's last year, he censored Killian's face and Davey's face, which I thought was hilarious at the time. But the thing with humor and with my memes, you always have to balance it. So for every person, for every joke that may go over the line, I try and even that out. So if someone has a competition, I'll always be the first one to say, how did it go? Or if they did well, well done. You can't always rip into people constantly. I do mess up the balance sometimes, but with Pat, I don't see the balance at all. I don't see him ever congratulating other people, or like I said at the start, doing something where it doesn't benefit him. Just showing up to a competition and helping without getting paid to do it. But look, that's just my opinion. You know, at the end of the day, he probably just thinks nothing of me. It's a sumo lifter, you know, that's just jumped into strongman. But yeah, I beat him at one event 4 years ago, Mark, and I'm hoping to beat him at 2 or 3. So for that, that's for me, that's a little bit personal. Like I really want to beat him. But for the other guys, it's just banter. But even having said that, I want to beat Pat at his best. I hope he shows. I hope he's fit. Yeah, there's no ill will or anything like that. Like I am glad he's doing. I kept asking him, like, are you doing it? Like, I hope you're doing it. Because you can't have an Ireland's Strongest Man without the guy who's won it 5 times. And even if I won it, Mark, if he didn't show and I won it, I wouldn't even take the title. Like I would. Like Sean was very respectful of it. He said the same thing when he won it. He's like, he wants to beat Pat. I'm sure Killian said that too. You have to beat the guy before you. That's just the way it goes.
I think everyone I've spoken to has said the exact same thing. They've been saying, I'm really excited, want to win, but I'm not Ireland's Strongest Man until I beat Pat. That's one of the caveats that every person has put in. So let's hope he shows up. By the sounds of it, he is going to, fingers crossed. So we'll have a full house on the day for everyone to battle against each other and find out who the actual strongest man in Ireland is. For you getting into, I believe you went into powerlifting first. How did that happen? What actually got you into it?
It was actually strongman first. I did Ireland's Strongest Man under 23 in 2013, 10 years ago. I was just in the gym working my lifts. I knew about strongman through YouTube. I always watched the World's Strongest Men competition. I watched all Mariusz Pudzianowski and Derek Poundstone were big role models for me. I always watched someone would make a tribute video of all their lifts and competition lifts and everything, training. And I was just like, that looks really, really cool. And I'd love to be able to do that. And they were like in savage shape as well. So they had the strength and the physique. So that was definitely the inspiration for getting into it. So I signed up for the Glen Ross's under 23s. I went in thinking, do you know what? I think I'll do all right, because I was 21, I think. I was 115 kilo, which was decent size back then. And I had some decent events. And I remember as soon as I got into the car park, I was with an ex-girlfriend at the time. I got into the car park and I seen Sean O'Hagan, like 6'11", 7 foot. I just turned to her and I was like, here, can we go home? Just the size of him. I couldn't be like, I'm not a small guy. Like, I know I'm 6'2", 6'3", but damn, man, I'd never seen someone so big in real life. And then Matty Costello was there. He was a big guy. He was as wide as he was tall. Eamon Harford, Robert Clark, Matthew McCoy, like some of the top strongmen now, like, you know, still currently, they were all there back then. And I won't lie, I came like second last, but it was my first time touching a tire flip, first time doing some of the events like the hinge dumbbell. That was really awkward. But like I didn't zero anything. I gave everything a good go. And my ego took a little bit of a dent after that, because I was thinking maybe I'm not that guy. I wasn't willing to put the work in at that time. So I kind of went back to bodybuilding and just being like big fish, little pond in my commercial gym. And it's funny then, a couple of years later, 2 or 3, I got in touch with Eamon, who's one of the competitors there, because he was the closest that lived near me. He was in Balbriggan, because obviously, you know, strongman isn't huge in Dublin even today. So I met up with him, and the idea was to do strongman coaching, but he got me into the powerlifting because he was doing powerlifting then. So yeah, I did some competitions with the IPO. Then they had a tested division, the AIPO. Came third in Worlds. I won a Euros, and just trying to build up my total. And then I did strongman again in 2018. The end of 2018, I did the first Cerberus Cup, which that was Killian's first comp, as far as I know, and Matthew. Beat both of them. But yeah, so the powerlifting actually did stand to me the couple of years of doing static lifts, and then obviously I still had my cardio from previous sports when I was younger, rugby and football and that. But yeah, I said, you know what, actually I'll give strongman a go for a year. So for that whole year of 2019, I think I did 8 comps, won 2 of them, and it was the Giants Live qualifier in 2019, the end of 2019. The same thing, I came 7th at that. I know it was a week after the Cerberus Cup, but I took that kind of badly. I was like, damn, you know, maybe again, I'm not that guy. So then I went back to powerlifting again. I joined ABS. ABS is a great gym, great atmosphere. If I went back in time, Mark, I'd still do it the same way. The thing with Strongman in Dublin, it's not big at all. My plan is to open a gym and do that, but that's in the future. But currently there's nothing. The powerlifting scene in Dublin is massive, huge. It's like the equivalent of GSP being the mecca of strongman. ABS in Dublin is the mecca of powerlifting in Europe. So I met some really good people there. I got pretty damn strong for my own relativeness. Built some good habits which stand to me today. So yeah, if I went back in time, I wouldn't have changed anything. I know people are like, oh, you know, jack of all trades, master of none. But I think when all's said and done, at the end of my journey, everything I've learned from both sports will stand to me, and all the friendships, connections, and everything. So yeah, I'm happy I'm on the right route. But if you ask me, I was a strongman first.
So if there's anybody that is actually watching that is in and around Dublin that wants to get into strongman, for somebody like yourself that has gone through the searching around, trying to figure out how to do it, what is the best way for them to do it? Is it to try and just do their own thing, try and get equipment themselves, or is there somewhere they can go for it?
Yeah, well, actually, I suppose full disclosure, there is a place in Sandyford called Southside Strength that does some strongman kit. I'm banned from there because of memes. But so yeah, I suppose you could go there. But if you're banned also like me, to be honest, Mark, like I said, like with stones, I haven't touched a stone, but like I loaded a 170 at my last comp without even training them. I mean, strong is strong at the end of the day. Just to put a comparison, so the ABS Pro there a couple of weeks ago, well, I suppose it's 2 months ago now, Boris won it. I'm not too sure if you're familiar or watched it. He's a Bulgarian that trains in a commercial gym with no fancy equipment whatsoever, literally bog standard barbell, bumper plates. And he won. He did 1,012 kilo at 104 kilo. Astonishing, ridiculous. Like, to put it into perspective, he came top 3 in his weight class in the world in history. I think it's like John Hack, Yuri Belkin, and then himself. But just what I'm trying to point out there is that he obviously didn't have the fancy kit, the Elite plates that you see everyone training on, the fancy barbells, or none of this. With strongman, it's kind of the same. Like the reason why I like strongman so much is you don't need the fancy equipment. Like, strong is strong. If you can if you get a cambered bar and you're able to pick it up from the floor with your arms, that's very similar to the mechanics of an Atlas stone. You can find a sand, you don't need to get a Cerberus sandbag. You can literally fill something up yourself and pick it up from the floor, and you're building that same strength to do the loading medley. So like, you really just need a barbell and plates really at the end of the day. So yeah, like, but if you do want some kit, Fire Gym is very good. I trained there. It has the log frame carry and some dumbbells, monster dumbbells. I'm hoping in the future maybe to, as I said, open my own gym. I have a lot of good ideas. I just have to wait a while, finance, and yeah, hope 2025 is the goal, Mark, to open something.
I always like to give the athletes a chance to shout out for any of the sponsors that they have. So are you currently sponsored by anybody?
Yeah, just one. Even though I'm wearing the Strom t-shirt, I might censor that actually because your man Colin doesn't pay me anything. Reinforced training gear. Aidan runs that. So I can't remember who reached out. I think it just kind of, we were both chatting together and it just came up. But he's been very good. He gave me some of the kit, The axle straps are class. I had some real issues with the Cerberus ones. They just kept sliding off me, and his were just better sized. And they were, if you go on the website, they're very cheap. Jerk for 10% off. But yeah, it's a independent local lads selling kit. So yeah, I always go with the locals.
Great stuff. That's always a good way to be. And for anybody that does want to follow you, I'm guessing the Instagram is the best place to be, and you can say the name because it's too confusing for me. So what is the tagline?
What's confusing about it?
Because it's, what is it? Ger meme. Oh, I don't even know. Ger, what is it?
It's underscore Jerkules.
Oh, underscore Jerkules is grand. Is it your name on it? Is Ger meme?
Oh, Jerkules do meme. Yeah, so that was Nicholas Dupree's. So because he lost the abs pro, he had to get rid of his do. So we all took the do.
That's the one I was getting confused on. Well, coming to the end, so thank you very much for joining me and taking the time to have a chat. Just, 4 or 5 days left until the competition. We're getting nice and close, so best of luck with it, and I will see you up there on Saturday.
Cheers, Mark. I'll see you then.